Attention YouTube reviewer, the following video is filmed on a private gun range by a firearms expert. All firearms are handled responsibly and at no point are any bystanders present or ever at risk. The following video also contains no footage of full auto firearms, bump stocks, firearm modifications, or firearm ammunition cells as defined by YouTube's community guidelines. This includes our outro. Alright guys, welcome back. Today we're talking about 5 reasons why you should not modify or Bubba a SKS in 2024. But first, before we get to that, let's talk about today's sponsor. Do you like firearms just like I do and hate gun control? Do you want to let all of your liberal friends and family know about it? Well, go over to txodmshop.com and get yourself one of my gun control hats, just like this one right here, and help support the channel. Every single one of these hats get you nice embroidered. Got different colors, different types of camos. This one's multicam, and you get the gun control nice and embroidered there on the front, and an American flag on the side. So y'all go over to txodmshop.com and help support the channel and get yourself one of these awesome hats. Alright guys, so today we're going to be talking about my top 5 reasons why you should not Bubba or modify an SKS here in 2024. Everyone knows the SKS rifle if you're in the firearm circles. It is probably one of the most popular and readily available surplus rifles that is a semi-automatic. Almost everyone knows the SKS. Now, my 5 reasons why I don't think it's really a smart or good idea to modify a SKS in 2024 comes down to the cost, legal considerations, performance, collector's value, and then also looks. So this is a Russian SKS right here. This one is produced in 1951. Gorgeous rifle. This is also a Russian SKS produced in 1951. This is another one that's going to be converted back to being original configuration. Luckily, I have all the parts for this. So we're going to get into why we don't want to modify SKSs in 2024. So let's start with reason number 1, and that's going to be the most glaring reason, and that's going to be cost. So here in 2024, a decent SKS, a nice quality one like this one here, isn't exactly cheap these days. So it used to be you can get a Russian SKS like this for a couple $100, and even today you can still get some lower quality SKSs for around $300 to $450. I know a couple places have them. There was a big shipment of Chinese Type 56s that came into the country not too long ago. I think Royal Tiger had some, and a few other. Palmetto had some, Atlantic Firearms had some, but those were some pretty rough guns. They were nowhere near as nice shape as this one right here, and they were Chinese SKSs, which are a little bit less desirable than some of these. So, however, really nice SKSs can be kind of expensive. For instance, my Factory 26 up there, I paid $700 for that rifle 2 years ago. And the reason I paid that much for it is because it's in almost unused, unfired condition, and it's an excellent rifle. Now, the problem is today with the collector's market, Russian firearms are not allowed into the country anymore. They have to kind of come in secondhand. And then a lot of times when they do come in secondhand, a lot of the marks are removed. So, you know, when you got good marks like this one here, kind of demand a big price on it. Not to mention there are some versions of SKSs that are really collectible, like say the Albanians and the East Germans. So you really got to take that into consideration. Now, as of right now, some of the nicer versions of SKSs are almost the same prices as budget AKs. So some of the lower end, like some PSA AKs, you can get for around the same price as some of the really nice SKSs. And then once you start adding in the cost of the stocks, optics, grips, buttstocks, stuff like that, chassis systems, you're really looking at taking an SKS, which is already almost the cost of a AK on its own, and then you're making it even more expensive for something that's honestly not as good as an AK. And we'll touch more on that when we talk about performance here in a little while. Alright, so let's talk about reason number 2, and that's going to be collector's value. So one of the reasons why the SKS is so collectible and highly prized is because it really is one of the first mainstream semi-automatic infantry rifles that was introduced to the world. Of course, you know, there were ones before it, but we're talking about mass production. There are tons of SKSs that were produced by many Soviet countries all over the world, and then they're still being used today. US soldiers were being shot at by SKSs in Vietnam, and there's probably still some being used in Ukraine right now. So they're a historical gun. Not to mention, the SKS is the platform that was the predecessor to the AK platform, and you see a lot of design elements from the SKS really move over to the AK platform. The problem with collectability is collectors want an SKS in original configuration like this. They don't want it messed up in any way. Now, you can, for instance, like say with my Russian here that I showed a second ago, you can modify them in such a way to where they can be restored back to original configuration in order to preserve its collector's value. You have to use the right type of the dust covers that have the rails on them, stuff like that. I've done it in the past with my first SKS, which was a Yugo. I had the big rail on it, stuff like that. That's back before I was a major collector and a historian. The problem is some people will actually do modifications on SKSs that are permanent modifications. For instance, cutting down the barrel, threading the barrel, drilling scope mounts, side mounts into the side of the receiver, stuff like that. Stuff like that, which does take more, which isn't really the majority of SKS modifications, does 100% destroy the collector's value of an SKS. Now, if you're talking like as a commercial Narenko or something like that, sure, that's one thing. But I've seen a lot of people that have completely butchered really nice collector's versions of SKSs, like Russians and stuff like that. So keep that in mind, that when you get an SKS and you want to do something like that, you might be ruining its value. Not to mention that the other thing that happens is when people tend to modify their SKS and modernize it to make it more useful, the problem is you lose parts. A lot of people won't keep track of stocks and the handguards and bayonets and stuff like that, or cleaning rods. And then what happens is, over the years and years and years, you lose stuff, and then you can't return the rifle back to original configuration with number matching parts. So that's part of the collector's value issue right there. Now let's touch real quick on the I can't talk today. The legal aspect of modifying an SKS. So, as this factory SKS sits right here, to my knowledge, this is legal in almost every state. Because it has a 10-round box magazine that is not detachable. It does not have a pistol grip. It does not have a forward grip. Any of these scary black, gun parts that politicians like to ban in states. Most states, you can have an SKS just like this. I believe even in California you can. Now the problem is, once you start doing this, now you got a rifle that is no longer legal in certain states, because now it has a collapsible stock, pistol grip, detachable magazine. You can put a forward grip on it, stuff like that. That really can hurt guns. Now, to my knowledge, the only thing that really can affect a factory SKS as far as legal in certain states is usually just the bayonets, to my knowledge. I believe California may have the bayonets banned on firearms. I'm not 100% sure. I do know that a bayonet is one of those regulated parts that they always have in their bills. So that's about the only legal consideration. Now, taking off just the bayonet, so you can have it. That's one thing. You can keep the bayonet, use it as a pocket knife, stuff like that. It's not hard to take off, not hard to put back. So that is one thing. But most places, this rifle is legal as is, even in Canada. Now, the other part of you have to think about when it comes to legal is a little part of the NFA called 922R. And that basically states that firearms can only have a certain number of foreign-made parts if they're imported. So, for instance, an SKS is usually cleared by 922R because in factory configuration, it doesn't have all the parts that are even regulated. It doesn't have grips, it doesn't have foregrips, it doesn't have vaccine, stuff like that. So as it sits factory, most SKSs are fine just as they are. Now, once you start taking something like this, say if you get a chassis that's not made in the US, that counts as a part. And then now once you put a magazine in it, that also counts as a part. You know, so you can with an SKS end up making it illegal federally just by 922R compliance. Now, full disclosure, 922R, to my knowledge and research, has only ever had 3 convictions, and since it's ever been made into law, and all 3 of those convictions have been part of attack onto a larger crime, you know, something else. So they just like, oh, okay, well, we're already getting from all this stuff. Let's make an example of him. Oh, he's got a AK that has too many exotic parts. So yeah, we're gonna just tack that on there for an extra, you know, 5 years sentence or something like that. And you have to consider with the way the ATF is right now, I wouldn't put him past it to sit there and say, hey, look, you know, we can't find anything else wrong with you, but hey, you got 12 guns that aren't 922R compliant. So that's just something to think about when you're talking about modifying imported firearms. Now we're talking about reason number 4, and this is probably the biggest reason in my book, and that is going to be performance. So one of the main reasons why people used to modify SKSs into chassis is because, well, you're making a rifle that is like this work more like this and look more like this. The difference is, well, it doesn't really work like that. So the issue is you can make an SKS kinda look like an AK, but it's not an AK. Okay? There's a couple problems with SKSs when you start trying to get AK performance out of them. They just don't do it very well. So first of all, we're going to show this is clear, no magazine, no ammo. One of the main problems with SKSs as far as performance go is the trigger. So SKSs don't have very good triggers. They're mushy, they're surplus. You have to understand, this is a firearm that was designed, it started being designed before World War I, and really hit the world right at the butt end of World War I. So it's old surplus trigger, not exactly great. Got a lot of take up, a lot of mush, long reset on it. So it's not a very good performing trigger. And I hadn't shot an SKS in a good while, and when I was filming the shooting content for this video, as well as the shooting content for some other videos, I forgot how horrible SKS triggers are. And that's one of those performance things. The other thing is, SKSs tend to be not super accurate. Now, okay, they're good enough, okay, as they are, for iron sights, and what they were designed for, they're great for that. But once you start trying to put, you know, big optics and stuff like that on it, like I am guilty of, in the past, the rifle really isn't capable of doing what you want it to when you start trying to reach out those ranges. Now, let's be honest, a lot of AKs aren't very accurate either. However, AKs have much better triggers. And you can buy trigger packs for AKs that are really good. Timmy makes trigger packs, and a couple other makes drop-in trigger packs. You can get good triggers in an AK. And if you're using, like, say, a 545 AK, then you can get a lot more range out of an AK accurately than you can in SKS. So that's one of the performance things. On top of that, you're looking at weight, and they're actually pretty comparable as far as weight goes. Once you start messing with them, you can go up, you can go down on it, but generally it's not going to be as light. And then the other problem you're going to have is reliability. You'd be surprised how much of a firearm's reliability is actually tied to how it's set up in its platform and its stock. A lot of harmonics can mess up a gun's reliability simply because that's just how it's tuned. So think of it like this. You're shooting a semi-automatic handgun and you limp wrist it. So you let your wrist do too much motion while motion while shooting. That can actually cause it to jam because while holding sturdy, all the recoil force is allowing that slide to move back and forth and operate smoothly. However, if you're letting your hand recoil, some of that recoil force is now moving your hand and not allowing the slide to move back with all the energy it needs, and you can cause jams that way. The same is possible once you start fiddling with some rifles and putting them in stocks that may have different harmonics. This SKS here, the Russian, and I believe I had a couple malfunctions with it. And that also can come down to the magazines as well. So this particular SKS, this one right here, this one is set up to use a duckbill style SKS magazine. So the magazines, duckbill magazines for SKSs aren't exactly known for being super reliable. There's a couple of them out there that are, but generally not really. Now, this SKS, which I've had on the channel before, is a factory D. This takes factory AK mags. So, for instance, let's drop this one out here. Get it out. Angle. Alright. And by the way, YouTube reviewer, this is not a 30-round magazine. Yes, this is a 19-round magazine, YouTube reviewer. So, no ammo in it either. So, now, of course, the problem is with these SKSs that have been factory modified to take AK mags, you gotta get up in there and find the right spot where it likes to sit. It's not like an AK to where the frame, the receiver is all the way out here, and it's right where it is. You see it actually goes way up in there. This magazine will lock in here without this chassis. So that's one thing to consider, is the magazine reliability when you come to performance on your SKS. Okay, reason number 5. We're talking about appearance. Let's be honest. I don't care what anyone says. This does not look as good as this. It doesn't. It just doesn't. It's not. No. It's not meant to be in a tactical. Now, there are some stocks that look okay, but generally a lot of them aren't all that great looking. They're kind of ugly, plastic, cheap, not all that great. And then, oh, don't even get me started on the bullpup chassis. And it doesn't look as good as this, because this is, I don't even like the way this looks. This rifle is going to be getting some factory AK furniture in the future. However, it's still, those don't look as good as that, even with that furniture on it. So that's one of those things, it it's in the eyes of the beholder. Which, when it comes to appearance, I once upon a time was wanting to modify my first SKS, and like I said, this was back before I even had my YouTube channel, back before I got into firearms history and mechanics, all that stuff like that, engineering. I wasn't into any of that stuff. I was your typical new firearms owner who was just now kind of looking at the surplus market. So that firearm, that SKS, is what really started getting me into surplus guns, because the next surplus gun I bought after that was my Polish P64, which I still have. And then the next one I got, which wasn't really surplus, and I regret getting rid of it, was my Zastava M77 in 308. So, I mean, appearance is in the eyes of the beholder, but man, this is an iconic looking firearm. Everyone knows what this looks like. It is just, it's gorgeous. It's a nice looking firearm. You know what it is, you know what it's meant to be, and that's what it is. So, in conclusion, when it comes to modifying an SKS, it honestly is up to you. If this is your jam, okay, that's fine. That's all you. But what I would like to recommend is, if you're going to modify an SKS, modernize it, please think about their historical significance and your long-term investment, because surplus firearms are investments. They are worth money, they're constantly increasing in value, and it's also a practical tool. That's all firearms. So if you are wanting to modernize an SKS, first of all, I would recommend looking and finding an SKS that's not worth much. So find one of those old beater Chinese surplus ones where the stock's all messed up and you got to do a lot of work to clean it up. Because one, you got a project to actually work with, and then you get to learn the rifle. And then two, it's not worth much as it sits, so you don't have to feel so bad as modifying it. The other thing I would think about, just think about the history, learn about the SKS, and then see if you do want to swap it out. And then also I would say, if you have a friend who has multiple versions of SKSs, before you ever even get one, shoot an original as it's supposed to be, and then shoot a modified one. And then you may find out that, hey, you know what, for what you want it for, this SKS is just fine as it is. You don't need to modify it for what you want. And then also consider the price of everything, and then just weigh it against getting an AK platform. Because like I said, by the time you find a decent SKS, buy the stocks, buy the grips, buy everything you need to modify it to something like this, magazine, stuff like that, you really could have just gotten an AK platform, a budget AK platform. And it's going to have a better trigger, it's likely going to be more accurate, it's likely going to be lighter, it's going to be cheaper in the long run with everything on that, and it's going to probably be more reliable. So that's just something to think about when you're talking about, what it is that, when it comes down to modifying an SKS and modernizing it. Anyways, guys, that's it for today's video. If you have any questions, comment down below. It helps the algorithm. I want to hear y'all's thoughts on modernizing the SKS platform. Personally, I'm against it. I used to be for it, but I am against it now, simply just on the price aspect of it. It is what it is. They're not cheap anymore. They're not being imported. They're drying up. They're becoming more scarce as they are, and it is what it is. So, anyways, guys, if y'all can do me a huge favor, go down to the bottom, like, subscribe, hit the little bell icon. Most of my viewers are not returning viewers. Y'all are not subscribed. Also, make sure you still subscribe, because I've had YouTube removing some subscribers here and there, and it hurts the channel. I'm trying to make sure I can bring y'all good content. I'm not able to post as much this year as I have been in the past year, just because I'm a little bit more busy with my job, my business, and stuff like that. So I'm trying to post as I can. Also, I do got some big news. as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, get yourself one of my fucking control hats. Support the cause. Let your liberal friends know that, hey, you don't agree with them. You understand the Second Amendment. Also, I have a new product at the store, and that is my first Gun Girl stickers. So, the Gun Girls are a new line that I'm coming up with, and it's going to be a whole line of merch. It's starting with stickers, and I'll probably have some shirts and stuff like that too. The first one I did, her name is Anna. She's Israeli, and she has the Israeli Light Barrel FAL. Basically, each Gun Girl is going to be a unique anime girl design that is going to be featuring a specific platform or rifle and the uniform of the country that it is from the time period in which the rifle was actually used. So this one here, she's an Israeli. She's using the Israeli Light Barrel FAL, and she has the Israeli uniform. The Israeli uniform's kind of interesting because it really hasn't changed much in like the past 50 years since they had the FAL. They're still using pretty much the same olive drab fatigues. The only thing that's really changed is, you know, some of the belts and stuff like that. So I ran with a modern uniform for this particular gun. Also because my artist, I sent her a picture of a female Israeli soldier for the context of the uniform itself, because I couldn't find any images of one from the 50s. So that is with that. Check out the stickers. I don't know what firearm I'm going to do next. So also, if y'all have any suggestions what gun you would like to see next turned into an anime waifu, let me know. I'm thinking about maybe the Set Me L. I've had some requests for that one. We'll see. Anyways, guys, y'all have a great one. Like, subscribe, do all that good stuff. Find yourself an SKS if you don't already have one. Shoot it, have fun with it, and I'll see y'all guys next time.